Welcome back everybody, it's Matt Newton down here at Lytham Golf Academy. New product to review for you in this video, and it's the new TaylorMade Original One Mini Driver. So the Mini Driver makes a return. We've seen a Mini Driver from TaylorMade before, but this now has obviously been relaunched. New name, Original One. Not quite sure on that name, but we'll talk a bit about that through the video. But we've got GC Quad on the floor. We're going to measure some data, get some numbers, obviously give you some feedback. We're going to talk a little bit about maybe which type of golf this is aimed at and whether it's going to be a club to hit off the ground or off the tee. So just before we jump into the video, if you're enjoying the content and you haven't subscribed, I'd love you to subscribe. Just smash that subscribe button if you can. And if you're new to the video, first time you're watching, then welcome. Thanks very much for tuning in. And obviously if you do like the video towards the end, again, hit that subscribe button so you get notifications of any future videos. So Original One Mini Driver from TaylorMade. As I say, we've seen Mini Driver before, but this is obviously packed with all the later technology that we're seeing maybe through the drivers from recent launches with TaylorMade. So I'm just going to get one hit straight away, and then we'll talk a little bit about what's involved in the club and what it's offering. Okay, that's quite a nice connection, quite a low penetrating flight there. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the Mini One Driver. So it's 275cc head, so obviously a lot smaller than a driver, generally around that 460 mark, but a little bit bigger than the 3-wood. So it sits right in between that 3-wood and obviously that drive in terms of head size. So the length of this is 43.75 in inches, so a little bit slightly longer than 3-wood, but obviously quite a bit shorter than driver. So really it's aimed at sort of that fairway finder. It's trying to get that ultimate control through the length of the shaft to try and control strike pattern, but also still packing a punch in the head with what they're saying is a very low CG to try and get that ball out there as far as it can. So it's accuracy with some distance as well. So maybe aimed to the golfer who possibly struggles with the driver. The length of the traditional driver now is very, very long. So maybe this shorter length is a little bit more aimed around that accuracy. So this one I've got is a 13.5. We've got adjustable neck sleeve, so again we can dial in like we do with the drivers, the loft up and down by up to 2 degrees. Obviously that will change face angle, so just be aware of what it does to that face angle when changing that loft. So I think typically for golf this is going to be off the tee club, but obviously could be used as a fairway club. Maybe a little bit tougher. I'm going to hit some shots later on off the fairway. We're going to test it off there, but it's a little bit of a deeper face than a 3-wood, so could be a little bit tougher, I think, off the fairway. So I'm hitting these off a small tee to start with, which I think typically is what a golfer would be buying this club for, is off the tee. It's a nice shot. It's a little bit low in the club face. Be interesting to see numbers here, because what TaylorMade are saying with, obviously we see that speed pocket in the bottom of this head, as we've seen in previous models, you know, the drivers and the fairway woods, but we've got a 50 grams sort of steel sole plate here, which you can sort of see screwed on with these 2 screws. They're not immovable, but that's sort of securing that steel sole plate there. So obviously the 50 grams in steel is very heavy, so it's pulling that CG very, very low. Combining that with a carbon crown, obviously saving weight, again, pulling that CG really low in that club face. So very low CG is obviously trying to create a very low sort of spin with this particular club. Now sitting that down by the golf ball, it's a lovely shape, you know, you've got that, again, that sort of matte carbon effect on the back section. And the front section now, obviously you saw this to be silver in M6, M5, obviously through the fairway woods. This is now a black, like a gloss black finish, which I quite like actually. It's interesting how they've done it very different, just to sort of maybe keep it slightly different from M6, M5, which I quite like, and it does look a little bit more sort of stealth-like in a way. Got that red edging around the back of the crown. That's a good strike. That's solid, that. Bit more up the club face there. Just working these up that left-hand side a little bit here, to be honest. But again, that was a solid strike. So that's getting out of 286 there, which is a good shot. You know, it's a good hit. Obviously, it's not going to be as long as my driver because of the shaft length and a little bit of the loft, but It's not really designed to, but hopefully a little bit more of that accuracy. Just pretty consistent with those, just working them up the left-hand side. Right, okay, so let's talk about the name. If I'm being honest, I'm not a great lover of the name, Original One. Bit confusing because we've seen a mini driver before, so this isn't the original, okay, if we're talking about mini drivers. I think what TaylorMade are referring to is the naming this after the Pittsburgh Persimmon, which in 1979 they brought out the persimmon driver, yet it was a metal wood. So again, it's a little bit confusing. I'll put a little picture up of that particular one, but 1979 was actually when I was born, so this is 40 years, my 40th this year, believe it or not. You wouldn't believe it, would you? Now, comment down below, I'm sure you will. So this is the 40th year anniversary, so that's, I think, where they're naming it after this Pittsburgh Persimmon, the original sort of metal wood that TaylorMade sort of launched. So, don't know, I'm not quite convinced on that name, Original One, but anyway, it's just a name. It doesn't really change what it does, so let's get another one hit. That's a good strike again. Yeah, so it's quite a forward strike. It's launching pretty easily there, but it's quite a forward forward flight, again, 290 there, a little bit higher up the club face. I'm guessing that would have spun down a little bit less there. Again, just working these up that left-hand side, but they're all very consistent, which is good. Get a consistent way that ball's coming out, then you can play with that on the golf course. So I've got that, just working up that left-hand side, so good opportunity to test the neck sleeve on this. So I would like to maybe just get this club face to open up a little bit, trying just to see if I can start that ball a little bit more up that right-hand side. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to drop the loft down. Okay, I'm going to drop it down. I'm going to drop it down a full 2 degrees here. So this is making this down into 11.5, but it's going to open the club face by quite a bit. So interesting to see what that actually does. I'm just going to change the number on this screen. Okay, so lofted down 11.5, and straight away when I sit that down by the golf ball, to me that sits a fraction open. I think probably, to be honest, first when it was sat in 13.5, it looked to be a slightly closed. That does look a better sitting golf club to me anyway, as being personal. So this is now at 11.5 with the face slightly open. Let's just see if this does anything. Okay, yeah, definitely working up that right-hand side. Just cut that a little bit, maybe low heel if I'm going to be really picky. So it's probably just geared that a little bit with that fade, in all honesty, but it has started in a different direction. Didn't quite get all of that. Yeah, that's good. Definitely just starting off that different direction. A little bit more neutral there. Yeah, so 279, again, very nice sort of distance there, very acceptable there. Try and keep that ball in play, but still getting a good sort of around that 270, 280 mark is very nice. Good strike, very solid. Yeah, definitely just starting out a different direction there. Lovely neutral flight with that one, and that's running up to that 280 mark also. Okay, so just changing that loft, changing that face angle, probably more importantly there, has just kept me from just hitting that slight one up the left. Well, the left was quite consistent, so that could be very playable. You know, I just maybe changed my alignment adjustment to play that in the golf course, but without me changing anything, just changing that face angle, you see, just gets that start direction of the ball just coming out a little bit different. So that's the advantage of the neck sleeve through the TaylorMade system. Okay, right, let's hit some off the ground. Okay, so we're going to hit some off the ground, but I'm definitely not hitting any off the ground at 11.5 degrees. So I'm going to pop it back to this standard loft, which is on the head at 13.5. I think this is going to be I don't know, it'd be interesting. I'm predicting this is going to be a little bit of a tougher club to hit off the ground because we've got that little bit of that deeper face. But having said that, TaylorMade are saying, you know, 50 gram steel sole plate, really pulling that CG down with that speed pocket just in the, obviously that low part of the club face. It's really helping on those low strikes, which you're typically going to see, aren't you, from that fairway sort of lie. So obviously off a mat here, it's a very tight lie, so I'm testing this to its sort of limit in terms of the lie anyway, and it's off the ground. So I think definitely just moving it back to that 13.5, I just see it sit a little bit more toed in. Okay, so I probably prefer the look of it in that slightly open setting. Again, it depends on you as a player. You know, you might prefer it to be a little bit closed depending on your shape of shot. Okay, off the ground, let's give this one a hit. Okay, so that was very sort of bottomy there. Definitely felt that, and it's really cut off up that right hand side. So I've just come slightly down. Obviously my attack angle is going to change a little bit. Now I know it's off the ground. I'm going to want to get into this a little bit more and probably just start to get the angle of attack a little bit more down. So I would predict it'll be more easy to get those little squeezy sort of shots, especially if I just miss it slightly low heel. So that was a little bit of a weak one. Okay, let's try and get a slightly better strike. Oh, again, that's bottom heel. It's cutting. It started up that left. It's not cut as much there. Again, it's a little bit weak. It's just a tougher cut now. Definitely feeling that. It's a little bit more daunting when you put it down by the golf ball because the ball sat very much low in the club face. You know, as we present a fairway wood down and you see the ball more in that middle of the club face, obviously because the head is more shallower, it looks like you can launch it. This looks like pretty much you're hitting a drive. Okay, so I'm going to hit one more now, and I'm just going to try and feel like I get a little bit more down on this, attacking it a little bit more down. We'll try and get that ball strike a little bit higher up that club face, and we'll just see if this does anything different. Oh yeah, there we go. Just got into that one a little bit more. That's such a better strike, really neutral. Well, just work up that left side a little bit, but flight was really neutral. And that's getting up, yeah, there we go. That's getting up into that high 270s on that distance number there. So again, I just changed my angle of attack. I think, to be honest, to get this really working off the fairway, I think the golfer needs a bit of speed. I've got some speed. Clearly, I struggled a little bit to start with it until I've really got down into it. Now, if I'm hitting down more, I'm delivering a little bit less dynamic loft. So this 13.5 is actually going to decrease. So you've got to have some speed to get that ball launching in that air. And I think for many golfers, that might be a little bit of a struggle to actually do that. So off the fairway, maybe a small minority will be doing that. Definitely more off the tee club though. Okay, let's go and look at some numbers and we'll see what this performs like in that 13.5 off the tee, into that 11.5 open face off the tee, and then obviously those ones we've just hit off the ground. Okay, so let's look at some numbers. So first 4 shots we got was with a 13.5 degree off the tee peg. So you can see 156 ball speed, launching around that 10 degree mark, spinning on average just under that 3,000 mark. So a little bit of fluctuation there with the spin number, but again, that's me, my strike. Catch it fractionally low, we know probably like those first 2 there, it's going to pop that spin up a little bit more. That last one particularly was a little bit more higher up the club face, and you can see that pulls that spin down a little bit more. So as always, strike will just change those numbers there. But averaging a 258 yard carry, running out at 279 on average there. So some good healthy numbers there. Obviously you won't get as far as driver, but that, you know, trying to hit that fairway a little bit more is definitely a little bit more important. Now obviously that 13.5 to me looked like it just sat a bit toed in, and that pattern was obviously more left, so it was very consistent. It just really started left and just had the little draws on them, which made it go left, to be honest, more than it was really like hooking left. But obviously I was averaging 25 yards left. So moving that loft down by 2 degrees, you can see here 11.5 is going to open that club face by quite a bit. So you can see there now 157 ball speed, so just a fraction more. Launching a little bit less, as you typically expect because of the loft reduction. Spun a little bit more actually, just got again a high one there, maybe just didn't catch some as quite as high up in that club face, but I was just a fraction more spin than the 13.5. You think it would be the other way, but again, it shows your strike can override it. But then my miss there, you can see 2.6 right, so didn't really get them ones working up the left. 14 yards right, that's going to probably hit right half of fairway, and those two are absolutely down the middle. So much more accuracy for me. So obviously found the right setting for me, just opened the face, sat that a little bit more what I thought looked a lot squarer, didn't really look massively open, but obviously 13.5 did look quite close, and that helped me. So again, this is an important thing for you to go through that fitting process to find that right sort of setting that suits your start direction, that golf ball, really important. So moving into off the ground, obviously pop this back into the 13.5, again saw that little bit of that closing of the club face at address, dropping a little bit of ball speed because you say they'll strike so below in the face, and that you can see gets that launch coming out quite a bit lower. You see like that 3.9 launch there. That's a real low one, isn't it? You know, it's a bit of a low one, and it's a bit of a fairway finder. You're going to take a little bit of hit on distance, but you know, I think that's the way a lot of golfers will struggle with that off the ground. You have to be really good ball strikers with some speed. Okay, because imagine if your ball speed was, say, for, I don't know, typical amateur golfer there might be into the sort of 120, 130 mark even, and launch that particular strike at just under 4 degrees, that is not going to get anywhere near that number there. Okay, that 225, 245, absolutely nowhere near. The speed, my 152 ball speed helped me to with that launch to get it up to somewhere sort of respectable in a way. But as I say, somebody with less speed isn't going to be able to do that, so could be a little bit more of a tougher one. Right, okay guys, so there we go. There's TaylorMade's original 1 mini driver. Again, not showing the name, but that's just the name. Look of it, I like. The sound of it, acoustics is really, really nice. The feel of it is lovely. And the numbers are pretty good there. I think, again, just a little bit, obviously, that dialing of that next setting for me personally got some better results, some more accurate results with that open club face for me personally. But definitely a club I think some golfers will get into. Struggling, maybe the golfer's struggling with that driver, needs that little bit of help. Possibly that shorter shaft is I would say is a big factor here that's going to help a lot of guys. But you're still getting that sort of fairly low spin characteristics of the head than you will get with like a normal 3-wood. So many guys would go, well, I can't hit driver, go into 3-wood. 3-wood obviously spins up a little bit more, losing more distance. So this is a little bit more, obviously just bridging that gap between driver and the 3-wood, but hopefully with a little bit more accuracy than your driver. Okay, post your comments down below, guys. Let me know your thoughts on the original 1 mini driver from TaylorMade. Let me know your thoughts about the name. Let me know your thoughts about how this performs. And is this something that you will go out and test yourself and possibly put it in your bag? Okay, love to hear your thoughts as always. Thanks so much for watching. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. Follow my social media platforms, both Instagram and Twitter. The handles there are @MNGolfCoach, and hopefully we'll catch up with you all very soon.